Tonight on the Worldview Report, one of the NFL's top field goal kickers goes public with a blistering commentary on woke America. And now he's paying the price. A former Marine from New Jersey has been arrested and accused of threatening to kill white people and carry out a mass shooting. The royal family has released the first official portrait of King Charles III, and it's causing quite the backlash. The Chinese Communist Party gives Joe Biden a lecture after he talks tough on trade and threatens to slap tariffs on certain Chinese products related to electric vehicles. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brannon Howse. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brannon Howse.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. Leading off tonight, the kicker for the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs is receiving blowback after he delivered an anti-woke, pro-family commencement speech to a small Catholic university. Now the mainstream media and liberal activists are trying to cancel traditional Catholic NFL kicker Harrison Butker after his speech to graduates at Benedictine College in Atkinson, Kansas. This was this past Saturday. During his 20-minute speech, Butker, who is unvaccinated, unapologetically pushed back against abortion as well as so-called Pride Month, which he called a deadly sin. He also singled out Joe Biden, cowardly U.S. Catholic bishops, and he singled out the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here's just one small clip from that speech.
Today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. For the ladies present today.
After several days of criticism and mocking comments from liberal media types and fellow celebrities, Butker's employer, the NFL, finally weighed in on Thursday with a comment of its own. NFL Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer Jonathan Bean, he told People magazine in a written statement, quote, Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. His views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger, end quote. Well, I say good for this young man for standing up for what he believes in. The British royal family has released the first official portrait of King Charles III since his inauguration 1 year ago, and it is causing quite a stir. The artwork, characterized by its vibrant red hues and detailed depiction of Charles in his Welsh Guards uniform, well, it was said to be a tribute to the king's long-standing service. But an unexpected visual phenomenon involving the mirrored image of the portrait has captured the public's imagination. The Gateway Pundit reported that the portrait was painted by artist Jonathan Eo, and it depicts Charles against a background of vivid red hues, wearing the uniform of the Welsh Guards military unit. Charles was made the regimental colonel of this regiment back in 1975. A butterfly flutters just above his right shoulder to complete the disturbing effect. The artist said, quote, "My aim was also to make reference to the traditions of royal portraiture, but in a way that reflects a 21st century monarch and, above all else, to communicate the subject's deep humanity," end quote. Watch this. Commenters were not kind to the artwork, basically saying, quote, "It looks like he is in hell," end quote. Even the New York Post called it the, quote, "ghostly looking," end quote, Charles portrait. Some asked if it was, quote, "all the blood on his hands," end quote, or some said that they, quote, 100% thought this was satire, end quote, while others said it looked like he's bathing in blood. The economic wars between the U.S. and China are indeed heating up. The Biden administration's proposed tariffs on Chinese goods have been dismissed by China's state-run Global Times as a farce, reserving particular contempt for the administration's efforts to protect the American electric vehicle industry from Chinese competition. The Chinese Communist Party, Oregon, lectured the U.S. administration by stating, quote, "This approach contradicts President Biden's commitment of not, quote, holding back China's development," end quote, and not seeking decoupling from China. It also goes against the important consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries, the statement said. To some extent, it can even be understood as the U.S. initiating a new round of tariff friction, end quote. The outlet further proclaimed that, quote, "before announcing the imposition of additional tariffs on China, the U.S. repeatedly spread negative information in an attempt to smear related Chinese technology and products. This is essentially a sign of guilt, trying to manipulate public opinion to cover up the fact that they are politicizing and instrumentalizing economic and trade issues," end quote. The so-called farce part of the Global Times critique was apparently that the Biden regime was complaining about the dangers of Chinese electric vehicles being dumped when almost zero vehicles are currently imported from China to even begin with. The CCP writers dismissed the entire Biden trade policy as little more than a, quote, "political show aimed at winning voters in an election year," end quote, and they threatened that Beijing would respond with, quote, "resolute measures to defend its own interest," end quote. A former Global Times editor blasted Biden's tariff hikes on Chinese EVs from 27% to 102% as a sign of panic and incompetence. He saw the tariffs as a sign of weakness, a, quote, "white flag raised by the U.S., end quote, to admit it has given up in the face of Chinese competition. We'll be right back after this break.
A lot of people are having great success with a weight management program with Bella Trim, but it's just a tool. In terms of ingredients, Chromex or chromium picolinate improves the actions of insulin, so you have better glucose management, and in addition, it promotes fat utilization. Fat utilization or fat burning is also a feature of metabolite, which are two botanicals that stimulate a switch called AMP kinase, and so you tend to burn fat, reduce belly fat or visceral fat. Who doesn't want that? Metabolite has the ability to stimulate satiety or reduce those cravings. That's really very, very important. And it does that by raising GLP-1 levels. In addition, we've addressed the microbiome by using prebiotics. Healthier microbiome, better weight management.
Welcome back from the break. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us each and every night. And thank you, most of all, for telling your family and friends about all the free programming on demand at worldviewtube.com. Folks, I launched WorldviewTube in 2006, 1 year after YouTube. And we are still going strong, and we're adding a lot more hosts. And we have some brand new documentaries coming out this fall. They're already in production. So if you appreciate all that we're doing at worldviewtube.com, we appreciate your support. There are many ways you can support us, but one of them is through our foundation, WVWfoundation.com. Our foundation is a major sponsor of this broadcast because, the foundation wants to push it out for free. And yet, it costs a lot of money to produce this program. It takes a team of about 7 of us, 15 man-hours a day to put it all together. So the foundation comes along and says, look, if you guys will push it out for free for at least a few days, that allows us to help underwrite it as a broadcast service and ministry to help people understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview, which is what our WVW Foundation and this broadcast and all that I do really is all about. So if you appreciate that, please go to WVWfoundation.com and make a contribution. Remember, we also have our Sunday night church service. The WVW Foundation church service is on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central Time at worldviewtube.com. I've been teaching that Sunday night church service since 2015. Right now, I'm in a series teaching through the book of Revelation. This coming Sunday night will be lesson number 7. 8 p.m. Central Time at worldviewtube.com. In addition, folks, it is then posted online. If you missed it live, you can, find it right there again at worldviewtube.com. Free of charge as a ministry of our broadcast ministry and our broadcast foundation church ministry, WVWfoundation.com. You'll find our mailing address again there if you prefer to support us through the mail, WVWfoundation.com. The dramatic increase in the number of Chinese nationals illegally crossing into the United States from Mexico under Joe Biden's watch, it has captured the attention of conservative journalists and national security experts who see it as a ticking time bomb. The Federalist filed a report Thursday warning that this trend not only highlights a significant breach in national security, but also, quote, facilitates greater infiltration by the Chinese Communist Party into the United States, posing substantial risks not, sufficiently addressed by current federal policies, end quote. Reports indicate that in just the first 2 days of May 2024, more Chinese nationals entered the U.S. illegally than in all of 2021. This massive flow of Chinese communists into America, it is facilitated by an alarming oversimplification in the vetting process that's been instituted by the Department of Homeland Security under Joe Biden. And they are reducing the number of interview questions for the Chinese nationals. They've reduced them, from approximately 40 down to just 5. The Federalist reports that such measures are dangerously prioritizing, quote, processing efficiency, end quote, over national security checks, leaving gaping vulnerabilities that could be exploited by the CCP to insert spies or other dangerous actors into our country. Biden's lax border policies have resulted in border agents being so overwhelmed with illegal crossings and fraudulent asylum requests that basic national security measures have been completely abandoned. Here's what the Federalist wrote, quote, given the geopolitical tensions and the CCP's documented strategy of using non-traditional means for warfare, as highlighted in its doctrine of unrestricted warfare, which advocates for the use of various tactics, including economic pressure, cyber attacks, and ideological infiltration, the lack of rigorous screening and the high volume of unchecked entries is deeply concerning. The implications are not just limited to espionage, but extend to the potential for creating societal disruptions and furthering the CCP's global influence campaign in America, end quote. Weeks away from Gay Pride Month, the country of Peru has officially classified transgenderism and intersex identities as, quote, mentally ill, end quote. The president of Peru, she signed a decree that defines transsexualism and gender identity disorder in children as mental illness, along with dual role transvestitism, fetishistic transvestism, and other gender identity disorders, all listed under the same umbrella. Pink News reported that the country's health ministry reportedly claimed following the decree's announcement that it was the only way it could, quote, guarantee full coverage of medical attention for mental health, end quote. Last week, before the bill was signed into law, the health ministry said LGBTQIA+, those people should not be subjected to so-called, quote, conversion therapies, end quote, and pointed to a 2021 resolution which protects against conversion therapy practices. Cited by the left-leaning British news outlet The Telegraph, there was a medical researcher there at Lima Scientific University of the South who said that the law may have been well-intentioned, but it revealed a lack of awareness of complex issues surrounding the LGBTQA+ crowd. He stated, quote, you can't ignore the context that is happening in a super conservative society where the LGBT community has no rights and where labeling them as mentally ill opens the door to conversion therapy, end quote. Here's the off-topic show with a well and somewhat sarcastic report on the development from the angle of Dylan Mulvaney's recent relocation to Peru. Remember, this is the former Bud Light poster boy who supposedly moved to Peru because it makes him, quote, feel safer, end quote. Watch this.
Hi, is this an okay time? Okay, surprise, I'm in Peru, and I'm at Machu Picchu. Isn't this just so beautiful?
Peru, the home of Lake Titicaca. Now they classify transgender people as mentally ill. What does that say about Dylan Mulvaney, who fled the USA and went to Peru to feel safer? Technically, they would call Dylan mentally ill, since he's in Peru.
To get to know yourself better, but I came here to feel something, you know what I mean? And I definitely have. I've done shaman ceremonies that were like 10 years worth of therapy. It was wild. I've seen a lot of llamas, and the people here are so kind. I feel very safe here. It's a little sad that I had to leave my country to feel safe, but that will get better eventually. And I am dying for some Trader Joe's rolled chili lime chips, but other than that, I am so content. Machu Picchu, wow, gorgeous. Okay, love you.
In other news, Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico remains in a serious but stabilized condition and is no longer at imminent risk of death after an attempted assassination. That's what his party colleagues said on Thursday. The Deputy Prime Minister and Defense Minister of Slovakia, he spoke briefly outside the hospital where his party leader and the nation's prime minister underwent emergency surgery on Wednesday. He said that the prime minister, Fico, suffered, quote, complicated injuries, end quote, and is in a very serious but now stabilized condition. The director of the hospital also spoke at a press conference Thursday morning, revealing that the prime minister had suffered, quote, multiple gunshot wounds, end quote, and that the surgery to save his life lasted 5 hours under 2 surgical teams. Fico is now recovering in an intensive care unit. That's what she said. Fico was shot while greeting the public after he had just hosted a cabinet meeting. The alleged gunman has been identified in the Slavic media as a 71-year-old leftist, a poet. Police and Fico's political colleagues say they suspect a political motive for what is being treated as an attempted assassination of the head of government. The publication, the conservative Daily Post, noted that just 35 days before the gunman struck, Fico himself warned that the polarization in the Slovakian society and hostile atmosphere in the media was creating a dangerous atmosphere that could lead to a politician being murdered. Fico, he has opposed sending more military aid to Ukraine and also stood firm against the World Health Organization's proposed pandemic treaty. Now it's time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. The FBI and Homeland Security have issued an alert warning that gay pride events that are scheduled for cities throughout the U.S. in June may be targeted by ISIS and other Islamic terrorist organizations. Of course, our woke federal law enforcement agencies, they never utter the word Islamic, Islamic State, or Muslim. So here's what they said in a release issued this week. Quote, foreign terrorist organizations or supporters may seek to exploit increased gatherings associated with the upcoming June 2024 Pride Month, end quote. The warning explained that so-called foreign terrorist organizations, or FTOs, will make efforts to, quote, commit or inspire violence against holiday celebrations, including Pride celebrations, and here we go again, or LGBTQIA plus, and there's a dash now, I guess, related venues. And they're compounded, they say, by the current heightened threat environment in the United States and other Western countries, end quote. The statement goes on to read, quote, the FTOs and their supporters have previously promoted anti-LGBTQIA plus rhetoric and targeted, and here we go again, LGBTQIA plus related events are venues for attacks, end quote. Is anyone getting tired of this? English language ISIS, well, they messaged a report that featured an article in 2023, February of 2023, calling for, quote, followers to conduct attacks on unidentified soft targets. Although the attacks and targets were not specific, they were not specific to any of the LGBTQIA plus venues, end quote. It is also significant that June 12, 2024 is the 8th anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida. After the shooting that killed 49 and wounded 53, the FBI alert says, quote, pro-ISIS messaging praised this attack as one of the high-profile attacks in Western countries, and FTO supporters celebrated it, end quote. The alert also noted a June 2023 attack on a Pride parade in Vienna, Austria, by 3 alleged ISIS sympathizers using knives and a vehicle. The number of people on the terror watch list attempting to enter the country illegally, as we know, has skyrocketed under Biden's term, along with the number of unvetted refugees being admitted from Islamic countries. So the current U.S. government policy, it appears to be one of encouraging Islamic terrorists to enter the country on the one hand, while labeling Americans who oppose them as xenophobic and Islamophobic. Then on the other hand, warning of impending attacks by these same Islamic terrorists that, well, they've allowed in and they've protected from being called out as dangerous. So the fact that these so-called foreign terrorists, as they call them, are also Islamic terrorists, well, it's never mentioned in the FBI alerts. The FBI. As one of my former FBI friends says, there's nothing similar to the FBI when I was there other than the initials, FBI. Well, that does it for this edition of the Worldview Report. As always, we thank you for tuning in. Hey, don't forget, we have a brand new sponsor, and that is worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. They have cell phones that you can get that do not track you, nor do they store your data. Cell phones that actually give you real privacy. They also have satellite phones, and you can actually get the satellite phones for free. Sign up for their very reasonable monthly plan, and you actually get the satellite phone for free. So the grid goes down, you're still in communication with family and loved ones that may not be in the same community with you. Guess what else is also there at worldviewtalk.com? Something we've wanted to offer for a long time. Solar generators. See, we knew of other solar generators, but we wanted to wait until we found the right company. And we believe this is what has now occurred. So go to worldviewtalk.com if you're interested. That's a URL specifically set up for us so that we get credit. So if you would like to get some of these products and support us at the same time, worldviewtalk.com. Cell phones that don't track you, satellite phones for emergencies, and now solar generators. I'll be showing you my solar generator that I've received now very, very soon. But check it out if you're interested, worldviewtalk.com. Also, Bella Grace, Melissa and I take it each and every day. Folks, this is real, 80 clinical trials behind it. Check it out. Full details at melissahousebg.com. There's also a new button there. If you want to join our team and promote Bella Grace and try to make some extra money in this inflationary economy, you can do that. Join our team and also be supporting what we're doing so everybody wins. Whether you want to join our team and also offer this to your family and friends on social media or whatever your sphere of influence is, or if you just want to order it and get a subscription that shows up every month just like we have, you'll find all those details at melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. Then, of course, we're very excited about Numi. This is a swish. We do this twice a day. This is Numi. It's a swish. You swish it in your mouth for about 3 to 4 minutes, and you're obtaining what's called glutathione. That's a very powerful molecule that studies show is a detoxer of our cells. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was turbo cancers and all this stuff going around. Maybe it's a good idea to think about these things. Not making claims, but do your own homework. Just put glutathione into a search engine. See how powerful it is and what the research is showing. So again, you can go and find more about it at neumi.com/house1, neumi.com/HOWSE and the numeral 1, neumi.com/house1, neumi.com/house1. A few ways we think you can support yourself and your health and us at the same time. That does it for this edition of the Worldview Report. As always, thank you for your support and thank you for watching and telling your friends about worldviewtube.com. That's where I'm at every day, 3 hours a day and archived. worldviewtube.com. Till next time, I'm Brannon Howse. May God save America. Take care.